Hello, road warriors, and you want to be road warriors. I got some updates for you for Stingray stingers, and I got a little bit of training too that I wanted to do. Several things have happened recently. A lot of good stuff, still getting good reviews. Uh, Too many to list. There's been a couple of issues that's come up. The Stingray is constantly evolving. Um, Hopefully we're going to be going to the next level very soon. I'm in the process of working on our grant paperwork now. Hoping to possibly bring us the 2.0 version with all the data and technology sometime next year. Let me start off by saying I'm about out. We've sold almost 100 units, or actually a little over. I've running out of materials. The supply chain has been a nightmare. Trying to restock. Just recently I found out that the Phoenix lights that I've been using are going up 60%. I just can't hardly deal with that. I didn't want to pass all that inflation on to you all. I started looking at another light. I actually came up with a pretty cool light. It's a Chinese light, I'm sure, but it seems to be a pretty good light, and it's got more surface area. It's plenty bright, as you can see. I also wanted to show you once again, the original of the Chinese light. Not that I like Chinese lights, but hey, you never know. I wanted to see how tough this thing really is, and guess what? It still works to this day. You can see that it's had the crap beat out of it. It's broke on me, just like I've disclosed to everybody. These things can break. In fact, the very tip of it's gone now, but it still works good. So anyway, these new lights will keep our costs down. The next thing I want to talk about is I still haven't had any warranty issues, but what I have done is I disclosed to everybody I was concerned about nobody's breaking the fiberglass rods in them, which we upgraded that to where it's making it easier to replace them by adding this little set screw right here. Instead of having to drill the glue out, you can take a little Allen wrench, which I'm fixing to do here to show you on this one, and how to replace that rod. You can replace it in the field. You can replace it quickly. This particular unit right here has taken a beating too. It was sent back to me. You can see how many times it's been hit. The switch is still intact. It still works. Here's the problem. They did break the fiberglass rod, and this was one of the very first units that didn't have this in it. I just recently put that in it. And it was a female. And guys, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but oh my gosh, these girls, they do an awesome job. They're better at running high pole. You can disagree if you want, but they're better. They're awesome multitaskers. I mean, stop and think about it. A woman can cook breakfast, carry a kid on their arm, smoke a cigarette, and talk on the phone all at the same time. You can't do that. And that's what it requires to be an awesome high poler. It's multitasking. Now, having said that, they've got a weakness. They're not as mechanically inclined as we are. So that's what gave me the idea to make this easier to replace, because to drill this glue out, and you got to get in here and you got to open all this up and blah blah blah. It just wasn't a good design, and the way we've got it now, it's good. Now, first glance at this thing, you think, okay, well that looks, I mean, does it still work? Yeah, it still works. But here's the problem: deflection. You've learned about this in some of the classes. I don't recall Oklahoma teaching on it, and by the way, I'm now certified in Washington State as well. But deflection, this thing is broke, and this is where it usually breaks, right here. People, you need to inspect your equipment, period. Don't get complacent thinking that this thing is going to do your job. It's not going to do it. It'll help you do your job. In fact, it will pick up some of those drops that you can't feel that you hit, or you couldn't see it because of weather conditions or the sun was shining in your eyes or whatever. This thing will pick it up, but it won't do your job, and it will break. When I'm talking about an inspection, you be monitoring this thing all the time. Don't just sit in there and quit using your mirror. Get you a mirror. I highly recommend a mirror. There are those that use a sunroof. It's more dangerous. It just is. Looking up like this. That mirror sitting on your dash, you adjust that mirror just right, and you be monitoring your equipment constantly. When the light goes off, it definitely makes a whole lot easier. You can see it in your peripheral vision. If you don't know what that means, look it up. But you can kind of glance out of it and watch the road and watch the traffic at the same time. Let me touch on that one more time. For those of you that didn't know, the person that inspired me to come up with this product was killed in a head-on collision running the high pole, putting 100% focus on this. This is why this thing, necessity is the mother of all inventions. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science. But anyway, back to the inspecting your equipment. Look at this. That is not supposed to happen. It's lost its rigidity. When it's up in your high pole like this, and it's got deflection, the wind has got it pushed over like this, something is wrong. You're seeing it just flop around in the wind. Don't keep using it. You've lost your measurements, the accuracy of your measurements from the top of this to the ground. You will not get an accurate reading from this piece of equipment because it's broken. It's that simple. So quit using it. All you got to do to replace this, they now come with a replacement rod, because I never wanted to get into the service part of this anyway. In fact, I'm back out on the road, running my pilot car, running the Stingray, doing tall, oversized loads where I can actually make some money. Eventually, this thing may pay off for me when we get everybody using one, but right now it's not. You take a little Allen wrench, you take out the little set screw, and then you take a little piece of wire, a paper clip works good, and you fish this little string out right here. You pull that little string out, and then you just pull your broken, oh, look at that, would you? That thing is broken. It's lost its rigidity, holding that stinger up. You pull that out, and you can even use the same tape. In fact, there was one girl that I was working with that was telling me she had one that already had the set screw in it, and she was even able to use the exact same string, the exact same tape. She wrapped it back up, she put a new rod in, and she put her screw in, and she's on down the road using her Stingray again. It's not rocket science, people. But anyway, complacency. Complacency, if you get complacent and you don't maintain your equipment, you don't monitor your equipment, you're flirting with disaster. I'm not going to be liable for it. You are, because you haven't done your job with monitoring your equipment and inspecting your equipment. Now, I want to talk about another big shout out to Albert Metz, Blue Metz Pilot Car. He was one of my very first customers. He approached me with an idea with the rain issues that we were having. The water in a heavy downpour, sometimes even in just a mist, even though everything is pretty much weatherproof, all the critical components inside here stay dry, the contact switch right here would fill up full of water, and it would complete the circuit, causing a false reading, and the light would flicker, this, that, and the other. And Albert reached out to me. He said, "Darren, have you ever tried putting a little bit of dielectric grease in there?" Now, I was familiar with dielectric grease. In fact, I'm kind of a old school mechanic, and a lot of the coil packs on changing your spark plugs require this dielectric grease that keeps the electric from jumping onto the block. And I said, man, I never thought about that. But lo and behold, I've actually tested this and it works great. So this is another part of the maintenance thing. The new Stingrays come with the little shrink boot on the end. And what you gotta do, they're now filled with RTV silicone here, and this whole top cavity is full of dielectric grease. And what you'll have to do occasionally, if the dielectric grease does eventually run out, go to any AutoZone, pick you up a little, you can get a small package of that. I mean, it's cheap, and figure out how to squirt a little bit in here. I mean, it's that simple. But these work really well, keeping all the moisture out. I did a run down to, it was about a 1,200 mile run not too long ago, and was in the rain all day long, and not once did I ever get a false reading. So we've got that corrected now. As far as the freezing rain, that switch still may freeze up, but I can't see the moisture getting in here anymore. If that switch does freeze up and just comes coated with ice, and you've got a major impact on a bridge, whatever, it's gonna break that ice right off of it, and it will make contact. We shouldn't be traveling in those kind of conditions anyway. I mean, that's the time to pull it over, and that's even on all your permits. Okay, I want to also share with you, I take a lot of this knowledge for granted because I was in the communications business for over 30 years, actually building the infrastructure, aerial, underground construction. The aerial, I can't tell you how many thousands of miles of aerial construction that I've been a part of, and personally even built. I'm a lineman. One time I had over 120 employees. We were one of the largest contractors in the Midwest for Cox Communications and AT&T. There's people out there that lack knowledge. I just was recently on a run with a young driver that running 18.3 on my high pole that was constantly pushing. I mean, this guy was wanting to reach speeds of 75 miles an hour, and I kept slowing him down, especially at that height. That height can cause all kinds of issues with getting close to power. Now, some of you are aware of compliance issues for communication lines, 18 foot over state highways. However, that does not exempt you from liability or the driver. Even with this driver, he didn't realize the weight of some of these lines, and now he stripped his load, did very well on running his skid poles and his stripping, but he would not slow down. He just wants to get this load delivered, and he's bouncing lines. I could see him in my rearview mirror, and I'm telling him, slow down. People, fiber optic cables are expensive, and in the very beginning of this era, they were very expensive. But the copper lines, the bigger lines, people don't realize how heavy they are. there's a different sizes. You see a line that looks like it's, maybe like a 2-inch PVC line. That thing will weigh anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds per foot. Now get your head around that and do the math on a 200-foot span. You know, that's 6,000 pounds. What goes up will come down. And it will break poles coming down. If you pop that thing going up doing 60, 70 miles an hour, it could possibly break those poles, and it's happened. It's happened. In fact, it happened to this same driver that still didn't understand, or I guess nobody ever told him, that what goes up must come down, and that, you know, a 6,000 pound line is going to break poles. This guy actually had $186,000 damage. These telecommunication companies are ruthless. They will sue in a heartbeat. In fact, there's a lot of bridges that get hit that never get reported. You cannot get away from bringing down a couple of telephone poles, people. I mean, it is a nightmare. In fact, I'm gonna tell you something. I recently quit a driver. Actually, I never took the load. He would not put skid poles. He told me that his boss told him by law they don't have to put skid poles on the load. He was somewhere around 17 foot and snags all over his load. I said, man, I can't help you. If you're not going to try to prevent a damage, I don't care if it's the law or not, I can't help you. You need to find somebody else to do it. A couple days later, I found out through the grapevine he did find somebody to go do it, and still didn't strip his load with the skid poles, and had a major damage out there. I didn't get all the details, but it was so bad that it caused a four-wheeler to run into the side of the load. I highly suggest, especially you rookies that are just now getting started running high pole and you're getting your confidence up, and you run into a driver like this that thinks they know everything. Got a lot of good drivers out there, experienced drivers that do take care of business, and they prepare for situations like that regardless of what the law requires. It's critical. It's critical, and you need to have some common sense in those areas. Also, there's been some questions come up about me not recommending this for power lines. Let's talk about power safety. I was OSHA certified years ago, working around power a lot. In fact, I even had some training at one of the local power companies here in Oklahoma because we work around that stuff so much. I cannot recommend any product. I'm personally not going to recommend any product around power. Power is ground seeking. There's been a lot of people really concerned about this product. Well, is it going to fry me, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's the same as a regular stinger. Electric is ground seeking. So, in fact, this is just as safe as a regular stinger, but I wouldn't recommend any stinger around power. And the reason being is because of moisture. Water conducts electricity. That's pretty common knowledge. Traveling in the rain and power with a high pole and a stinger, and everything is wet, and you hit a primary power line, you've given it a path, a ground path to power. So, and the reason I'm sharing this information with you, because, you know, once again, a lot of people just don't know. And I take these things for granted, this knowledge for granted. I won't, still with all of my training and all of my experience, I've done some tall loads, I've touched power lines. In fact, I've touched them with this, but it's been in dry weather. I'm not going to recommend it for anybody. In fact, even the lineman equipment that work on power lines constantly have died with their own equipment. Hot gloves that had a pinhole. Wasn't properly inspected, was out of date. They're only good for so long. Even the poles, the lifting equipment that they use are dated, and they have an expiration date on them. I've seen people that have went to wipe the sweat off of their forehead and touch a power line with their hard hat, and the power jump, and boom, they're dead. So you really want to respect those kind of loads. That's a reason that I don't recommend this for power lines. And also, this being the prototype, has issues at anything over 18 foot. How does it have issues? Because of the height of the communication lines. They can snag on this little housing here and jerk them out of your pole. They have greater impact down here and cause this to break. Just like I showed you the broken rod in here. Those low hits are what you want to really watch for. And when you hit something hard, really low on your stinger, inspect it. See if you can do something like that and it just stays like that. Because something is broken in there. It's time to fix it. But anyway, that's all I got. You guys be safe out there. Lastly, at some point in time, I'm gonna need your help. I'm gonna need your support to get to the 2.0 and the 3.0 Stingray. I'm currently reaching out to Garmin for the support on the satellite technology to be able to monitor the distance between the loads and have the monitors with the audio alarm every time a strike occurs. It's going to take some funds. I'm working on a grant with the DOT. It's a SBIR grant. It's a Small Business Innovation Research grant. The ball is rolling on it. The supply chain looks like it's getting better. Everything is starting to get a little bit better. I may reach out to you guys and put a little website together for a support. I want to start seeing some testimonies out there of how the Stingray has helped you. And I know for a fact that, like I said earlier, I'm a pretty good pilot car. I'm gonna humbly tell you that I've been told one of the best they ever had. And immediately I say, hey, that's not me, but I just got more tools than everybody else and I know how to use them. And it's the Stingray, it's routing software, it's everything that enables me to be better at this multitasking, eliminating some of these things. It's eliminating human errors. Nobody is perfect out there. But you guys give me some feedback and some testimonies in the future when I ask you, so I can submit all of this to try to get a grant that's worthy of giving away and keeping our costs down on these tools that are helping us prevent damages and increasing safety. You guys have a great day. If you got any questions, reach out to me.